Okay, so welcome all, Tuesday night. Thanks so much for listening. And we'll kick right into it. So, you know, sort of why you're here for a Christchurch market update and yes, it is a sales opportunity to show you a couple properties that we have that you may be interested in looking at that purchasing or finding more information out. So what we're going to go through after the introductions, Campbell will take us through a market update since COVID level 4 and through level 3, back to the future, and what's going on with all the rebuild with jobs, people and population growth, all those good things there. A bit of the supply demand, bit of economics 101, which goes on to property 101, I guess, and then a bit more for what's going on in the future, which is important when you buy an investment property. After that, we will talk about the 3 deals, and what I love about this is they're all slightly different deals. As in, we sell a lot off the plan deals. Only one of these 3 are off the plan deal, so 2 are there ready. You can move in straight away, which we'll talk about shortly. So first of all, a lot of people know me. Most of you are our clients at Property Ventures, but just very briefly, so I know Campbell's going to mention the same things about himself. First purchase in 1996. I'm a late flourisher with investment property and started 15 years ago, but I've embraced myself in property for 15 years, traded way more than most people normally would, and of course I started this thing at Property Ventures 7 years ago, and also the founder of the New Zealand Property Podcast video series about 7 years ago. So that's a briefly about me. You'll notice a picture down the bottom. I saw Campbell had a couple of pictures on there, and it was a bit late for me to find some, so I found one at our Christmas do last year, heading down Queen Street, and I realised the 4 of us on our bike, of course going to do an inspection on our Christmas do, there's the 4 people in our new build team and Christchurch team, which is quite convenient for tonight, so I thought that was quite appropriate. So what we'll do here is I'll change the presenter over to Campbell, and Campbell will take over and talk about just briefly about himself, and then dig into the about Christchurch, and that's part of the reason we're all here tonight. So over to you, Campbell.
Hey, thanks, Mark, and I think I successfully clicked show my screen. So look, this will be quick because Mark and I actually do have similar backgrounds. We've been immersed in property for a number of years. We've both ended up helping investors get into long-term, low-risk investing. And I guess what I've done is I've really focused more recently on finding the good deals. And if I look at the Property Ventures team, you know, there's a lot of very seasoned and experienced people within that Property Ventures team. So we've recently joined forces to help one another because we're very good at doing the deep due diligence on deals. And this comes from, you know, 27 years in the industry. I bought our first home in '92, but we ended up turning it into a rental. It was a 3-flat property in Wellington. So I guess, you know, looking at our track records, you've got a lot of good, bad, and different experience there in terms of Mark and I have probably seen everything. We're both long in the tooth, but we still love what we do. So, yeah, I call myself a property guy. Property's been great for me. It's enabled me a very, very fun lifestyle. But underneath it all, we're just a couple of guys from the South Island that have built up pretty cool businesses. So I don't want to take too long on things like that because we've got quite a lot to get through, and we're going to take you through 3 pretty cool deals in Christchurch. So, Mark, people will still hear me, right? I'm assuming. Yep, I can see. I think it's beeping away. So Christchurch is a real focus, regardless of COVID-19. But I'm going to discuss COVID-19, and it's a real focus because a lot of people, especially in the North Island, and I've spent most of my life in the North Island and the South, even though I'm a South Islander, but most people in the North Island have still got very fresh memories of the earthquakes. Now, the last big earthquake in Christchurch was in 2011, nearly 10 years ago. And since that time, a lot's changed in Christchurch, but what hasn't changed are values. Now, those lines on your graph really paint the picture of Christchurch as, in what our opinion is, an extremely undervalued city. And I'm going to take you through some very high-level reasons why. But with an average house price less than Dunedin in the low 400s as the second largest city, we believe it's grossly undervalued. Now let's go back 9, 10 years, nearly 9.5 years. It was in February 2011. 80%. That's a fact. 80% of the Christchurch CBD was destroyed or demolished. That changed this city forever. And that photo was taken minutes after that big earthquake in February. And you know, it's a big CBD. It's flat. But 80% of it was destroyed and demolished. And this is probably one of the core reasons that we've still got flat prices. So basically the council and the government got together and they came up with a central city recovery plan. This is all online. You can get hold of it. And they basically went to the people of Canterbury and received more than 100 suggestions, replies, improvements of how the city should look. So the people of Canterbury, 20% of the population, or 500,000 people, had their say on what they wanted. And the focus was green city, very strong identity through the buildings, compact CBD, live, work and play in a CBD in a very accessible city. And if I look at it today in 2020, they've done that. So this was all plotted in 2011, 2012. And there's some very, very interesting readings that you can get from there. But the city that we've now got, and I believe it's about 70 to 80% of the way there. But one of the things they did in those dark days was they, council and government and people of Canterbury got together and decided on not only how the city should look, but what major infrastructure projects it would have. And I'm just going to rip through them because some of them are finished. And the reason that they designed the city the way they did in 2011 was based on this is an original plot of Christchurch back in the 1890 or somewhere around there, 1870. This is very old. So Christchurch runs north, south, east, west. It's a big grid, and that's the CBD. That's the 4 abs back in the day, and basically that's been the focus. So 560,000 people live in Canterbury at the moment, or that's a few years old. 12% of the country's GDP, and though I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm just touching on a few of them. The convention centre, 475 million, nearly $500 million. It's nearly finished. The covered stadium, Metro Sports Centre. Sorry, this is the stadium, not the Metro Sports Centre. Got the heading wrong there, but nearly another $500 million. That's the last project. The land's there. They've agreed it. They've signed it off. That is going ahead. Only one of 2 covered stadiums in New Zealand, and the other one's in Dunedin. And this is going to be right in the heart of the CBD. And it's not just going to be for sports. It's going to be for concerts and all sorts of things. The Metro Sports Centre, 300 million. Construction has started on that already. That is how much it's going to take up. It runs from Morehouse Ave to St Asaph Street. I mean, it's going to make QE2, the old QE2, which is gone, it's going to make that look tiny. This is going to be a place where teenagers, families, people come and use all the time. It's right next to the hospital. It's right next to Hagley Park. Construction has started. One of the tallest cranes in Christchurch is on that site right now. Turanga, which is, they call it the library, but it's far more than a library. I believe, and as a real estate person, I think it's one of the most beautiful buildings inside and out I've ever been to. And if you're if you're touring Christchurch, please go through it. It is stunning. You can make your own movie in there. And it's Turanga is a building that's for library, but it's also a place where people meet, people congregate, people hang out. And it's been finished for a while now, and it's just stunning. 100 million just done.
Right in the square.
Yeah, right in the CBD. Now, I drive people, when I've got North Islanders in the car, I drive them past this building and I say, oh, what do you think that is? And a lot of them think it's an arts centre or some sort of place of art. It's actually the bus station. $53 million bus station where you don't get wet getting on and off the buses. It's got meeting areas, it's got bathrooms, it's got cafes, right again in the middle of town. That's finished. That was one of the first projects to be completed. A $20 million playground, which on the weekends, before COVID-19 obviously, was just packed, and it's a super, super cool playground. And look, there's another 11 amazing buildings in those 17 infrastructure projects. And you might think, well, what have infrastructure projects got to do with property investing? Well, they bring people, they bring jobs, they bring tourists. And we're already now starting to see post-COVID level 3 now down to 2, soon to be level 1. Kiwis are starting to be offered some seriously good deals. I sent my wife an email today about doing a camper van trip around South Island. Been away from the South Island for 30 years. Obviously come back a lot with work, but we're going to hire a camper van this spring and drive around the country. It's going to cost $50 or $70 a day. They're normally $300 a day. So I think we're going to see a lot of tourism, and a lot of it's going to come to South Island to rebuild this country after COVID-19. So these infrastructure projects bring business spending. I didn't show one other one that was in there, and that was the Justice Precinct. 1,200 jobs in that single building. And I guess they bring the heart and soul to an already beautiful city. You know, Christchurch was always seen as the Garden City. But it brings a heart and soul to it, because these buildings, not only are they beautiful to look at, but they're just awesome places to go into. And I guess if you look at the library as sort of one of those talking points, but you've got the crossing down at where the Valentines are. You've got Riverside, which is this new awesome food market by the Riverside. We're already seeing it at ground level that, they reckon 6,000 to 7,000 people living in the CBD now, with a forecast of going to 20. So Christchurch as a sorry, Mark, you go.
I'll just jump in there, and what I've liked about watching Christchurch in the last 4 or 5 years, and I remember the first lot of apartments are all finished, and or apartments, townhouses, whatever they were. The investors were nervous from out of town and going, well, there's not going to be enough accommodation. I mean, there's going to be too much accommodation because there's nothing there. And they're going, there's all these buildings built up and what have you. I remember one in the Chiltern Street, and I remember I think it was a Justin Precinct. Was 1,200 jobs? I think you just said. Yeah. And what had happened was.
I'm sure that's right.
Yeah. And then there was all these places were finished, but within 3 months, there's a place right next door that needs 1,200 jobs. And very quickly, these places are full, and then there's a shortage of accommodation. And it's been yo-yoing like that now for quite some time. And but now as all these bigger projects are getting completed, and there's a whole lot of workers in town also. I always say when someone buys an investment property off the plan, I said, allow for 3 months being vacant, but nothing in Christchurch has ever been anywhere near 3 months. Even when there's been 75 finished at the same time, they still haven't been vacant for any more than, I think the longest was about a month. And that was about 75 that were in that situation. So, but carry on.
No, you're 100% right. I mean, and the best comparison that I lived through it. I lived in Wellington in the 90s when there were 200 head offices in government. And on the weekends, there were no apartments, there was no Te Papa, there was no stadium. There were bars on Friday night, Saturday night on Courtney Place, but in the CBD, Willis Street and Lambton Quay, it was dead. Now, you kick yourself if you drive into that city in the weekends because it's just so congested. And if you look at Christchurch, it's a mirror image of Wellington, but it's much bigger, but it's going to have a similar CBD population. So when 20,000 people are running around that city, it's not that far away, and it's going to have a massive impact on prices. And coming back to jobs, tenants move out of further away locations to get close to work. But secondly, 80% of the CBD was destroyed. So these tenants haven't had the choice of new properties until now. And our experience, and we've been involved in 300 properties since 2011, and we got right involved with right at the start of the rebuild. And we have not had any more than weeks, a couple of weeks vacancy on complexes with multiple units coming on stream at the same time. And more recently, it's actually been the opposite. We've had tenants in days, not weeks, in new complexes. People who are renting want new, not old. And there was a lot of talk 3 or 4 years ago with the amount of building that was going on in the city in terms of residential. They're saying, all these 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom apartments. Well, guess what? They get filled with owner-occupiers or tenants very, very quickly. And that's not my opinion. That's the fact of what the property managers are seeing at the coalface. And we're only a third of the way there. But yeah, you're right, Mark. But let's take away Property Ventures' opinion, Campbell Venning's opinion. Supply and demand is pretty simple. Christchurch is the gateway to the South Island. It's actually crazily the second largest city, but it's also one of the cheapest places to live in New Zealand. You know, rent and purchasing here is really cheap. And people forget that, you know, if you're doing a job in Christchurch, the same job pays the same amount of money in Wellington or Auckland, thereabouts. So it's actually cost of living and the quality of life's pretty good in Christchurch. And we're already seeing a lot of young people moving here. And if they can get work here, they're on the plane or in the car pretty quickly. And we're seeing more and more of it. So economics, just to sum that up, I mean, I did economics at university, and for me, it's just simple. But it's not a case of build it and hope they come. They were already here. They moved out after the earthquake because 80% of the CBD was destroyed. And as all this new property comes on stream, they can't get it quick enough because they want to be back in the city where the fun is, the bars, cafes, restaurants, their work, and all the open green space. It is a beautiful city. So then let's go to the next stage of this and look at it from a property point of view. So return on investment, ROI. You measure a property, gross yield is the annual rent over its purchase cost. And in Christchurch, we've got some of the highest yields in the country because interest rates are obviously low, but that's national. But more importantly, the entry price in Christchurch is Wellington in the 90s, Auckland in the 2000s. I mean, when that city got rebuilt in 2011, 12, 13, land values got reset to the point that in some locations, developers were paying $500 a metre, now $2,000 a metre, and $2,000 a metre is still cheap compared to Wellington, Auckland, or other major cities. So Christchurch has been reset at land value level. And when it comes to property, what that's done is given investors this huge, I guess, yield increase because your entry price is so much lower based on the cost of the land. Building in Christchurch, similar to building in Wellington, building in Auckland, building in Hamilton, thereabouts, or a little bit inflationary in the higher locations. But the land is where the price is set. And it's pretty much very few sections left in the CBD of Christchurch. The other thing is, and I'm not going to get into this because we want to get into some of these deals, but if your property is getting a good return, that typically means the value of the property is higher than what you paid for it, because most valuers value on recent sales. But when it comes to an investment property, it gets valued on the basis of capitalizing the rent. And if Christchurch rents or gross yields, return on investment is higher than the rest of the country, that typically means that the properties are worth more than what they're currently being sold for because they're not being valued on the capitalization of the rents. So when that happens, you've got this discrepancy. And in Wellington, in 2014, yields caught up with values. And what that meant is properties we were selling for 500 jumped to 600 within 9 months because the capitalization rates, I'm not going to get into I can get too complicated with this, but the capitalization rates that a valuer was using were too high for the location. They dropped the cap rate, it increases the value of the house or the apartment or the townhouse. So if I look at Christchurch rents, they're comparatively low. Straight away, that's pressure on value. And you only have to talk to valuers, and they're expecting Christchurch's values to rise based on rents, based on land price, and based on national comparatives. It doesn't happen overnight. And then we've got this other thing. The value of property is also tagged to interest rates, and there's a lag. And with every time you see an interest rate drop, property prices technically should go up, but they don't. There's a lag. And that's national, not just Christchurch. But when you're starting off such a low base as we're in at Christchurch at the moment, we expect a Wellington-like jump at some point on the equation. So I'm probably getting a little bit deep here. I might lose a few people, but from an economics point of view, Christchurch, if you talk to any economist, is undervalued. And that's when you buy. Prices are low, don't buy at 12 o'clock.
It's interesting just just before you go on,
Yeah.
Campbell, I was speaking at an event late last year, and it was talking about I was talking about the smaller town New Zealand out of the cities, and it had how much that had raised since the last downturn, and it was the story basically goes as they get to 80-90%, and that so when you get close to 80-90% rise from the last low, that's when you got to look out, because it's probably going to flatten out or maybe even dip again and flatten a bit. And you know, most of the places, you know, late last year had gone up 70-80%. There were some places like Palmerston North, for example, with 55% sort of thing. Christchurch didn't even rate on our chart. We didn't even talk about Christchurch in that particular forum. And I don't know what it is, but I imagine at the moment it's somewhere around 20 or 30%. So yeah, as you said, when you buy when it's low. I've got a great feeling about Christchurch in the next, you know, what's going on in the next 5 to 10 years. But anyway, carry on. Just.
Well, no, you're 100% right, Mark. And look, that graph that showed the major cities. So this current graph, if you can see it on your screen, the dark blue line is Christchurch City, the light blue line is New Zealand. That doesn't make sense, because most cities in New Zealand follow each other. They start in Auckland, it's the heart of the country, it's the epicenter of the country. But if you look at that current graph down there, and these are all from CoreLogic QV, quotable value, 2015, the country started growing at New Zealand, that's the New Zealand growth rate. We've had a property boom. We've had a property boom because the global financial crisis caused a massive supply shortage. So we're just catching up. But Christchurch isn't catching up, and it's grossly undervalued comparative to the rest of the country, comparative to national rents, and where we expect it to end up. Now, ironically, I don't like steep rises because they tend to get followed by steep falls. But I actually, it's been flat for so long. Every time a new complex is finished, it brings more people into the CBD. The last 2 quarters, we've actually had small increments in Christchurch, and that's been the first for some time. So I'm convinced the rest of 2020 and 2021 will be growth years for Christchurch, and prices will just continue to grow.
And that's the reason why the experts in the last couple of weeks have been saying that why Christchurch is lower risk than any of the cities with the after COVID situation, because it's been low for so long, as you said. And
I'm not saying this just from opinion. I mean, I remember a complex in Mount Cook in Wellington, and we were selling them initially for $460 to $490. They were returning 7% at the time. Interest rates were 6%. So they were cash flow positive. And I told all of the I was speaking to a group of property investors at the museum hotel, and I said, look, you're all mad if you don't buy in Wellington at the moment. Things are too cheap here. And I always thought they'd go into the high 5s, but they broke high 5s. They got into the mid 6s. And now in 2020, I'd imagine that complex is pushing into the 7s. Same product, same rent, maybe a bit of a rent increase, but they were undervalued based on the capitalisation of the rental income valuation methodology. And the same thing is going to happen to Christchurch. I mean, some complexes, I've seen some complexes in Christchurch have already jumped in value based on what people paid for and what they're worth now. Both Property Ventures and ourselves have been involved with a lot of projects that have done that. So we kind of, there's no such thing as a dead cert bet, but there's very, very few reasons why Christchurch isn't going to grow. And, I get the 2 most common ones I get is, what about the earthquakes? Well, they've had 2 in the North Island in the last 3 days. But the other big one's insurance. And I like to touch on this because insurance in 2012-13 was literally impossible to get in Christchurch. It's actually harder to get insurance now in Wellington than Christchurch. Basically, Christchurch has got the latest foundation solutions. The land remediation solutions have gone into it. They've had the latest technology on foundations and build design. And Christchurch, I have never heard anybody, even with broken properties, not getting insurance. So the myth that you can't get insurance in Christchurch is ludicrous, but also the rate of insurance or the cost of insurance here is metre for metre cheaper than Wellington on average. Because all of the insurance companies are terrified that Wellington's going to have a big shake, and they've put the premiums up, especially in the commercial sector. So if anyone believes or thinks that there's an insurance issue in Christchurch, they're now 9 years out of date, or 8 years out of date. So just don't believe that if someone tells you that you can't get insurance, because it's just rubbish.
And just
so we're going to
confidence on the market. I can chip in there. Just if people are unconfident because it hasn't gone up a heap in the last few years, even though, as you said, it has crawled up a little bit. As far as sales go, personally in our business, we've had more. This is just normal property. We've had more sales in Christchurch than any other city in the last 2 years. In fact, probably 3 years, in fact. So it's not as if sales aren't happening. So there's plenty of sales, plenty of buyers. And I know Andy, our agent, who's actually, I see he's on the call here, he's had more and more inquiry from investors, just even post-COVID already, from Auckland, looking at buying than he experienced beforehand.
Yeah, look, it is real. I mean, there's a lot of North Islanders coming into Christchurch already. The yields here are stronger, but it's not just, don't come here for the cash flow, come here for the expected growth, because, there's parts of Auckland which, in my opinion, infill housing in Auckland is pretty hard to beat. And those are our two most sought after product at the moment: Auckland Unitary Plan infill housing, Christchurch new stock, bigger properties than most infill housing in Auckland, but unbelievable locations for what you're paying. So you're right, Mark. So I'm going to touch on 3 projects, and then Mark's going to take us through the depths of due diligence and information that we've got on them. So 3 Christchurch projects. He's going to take you into the Property Ventures website for these. They're not on the Property Ventures. Sorry, they're on basically a wholesale website, which is what we do for Property Ventures. We've put these listings together for them, and one of them, the one that I'm in front of now, which is called Laneways. So this is next door to the Justice Precinct. Justice Precinct and it's to be built. So this is off the plan, and the other 2 projects are complete, but this isn't off the plan, so you only have to put 10% down. This would be like one street off Queen Street, or this would be like one street off Willis Street or Lambton Quay in Wellington, if you're an Aucklander or a Wellingtonian. It's on Chewham Street. It is next to the Justice Precinct, which has 1,200 people working in it. It is a 1 minute walk to the Reading Cinema, a 1.5 minute walk to the bus station. I mean, you can't get any more central than this. And prices are from 430 grand. So this project stalled. It had a change of developer, and it's got the developer on it now that's building the next project that we've just seen finish. So we've actually seen the developers finish work, and they are unbelievably fussy on quality. So their first project that we've seen in Christchurch, they're a new Plymouth developer. They've done some commercial development here in Christchurch, and they've done a residential complex, 5-story one I'll show you in a minute. So this is an off the plan project. We launched this last year, but then we had to take it off the market because the first developer had some headaches, and now it's got into the hands of a proven developer in the city. Settlement expected at the end of next year. The developer has just taken over the site. They are site clearing. They are getting groundworks ready. And I mean, I'd never imagined, in Wellington, the stuff that we were selling that was cash flow positive was a couple of Ks out of the CBD. This is actually in the middle of the CBD. So to find a cash flow positive apartment complex with 1 and 2 bedrooms in it in the middle of a major city is pretty unheard of, and it's only because of the rebuild and the earthquakes and that flat Christchurch line. Mark, can you remember any city around New Zealand where you've seen something like this at that sort of price, so central?
Not central. I don't think Mangan Real is that central in Auckland, so the answer is no. Just on that cash flow there, is that on a 100% lending, 80% lending?
100%. So that's, doing cash flow analysis is totally subjective. It depends on your inputs. And those were done on 3.5% interest rates, where now they're down to 3. So we did the cash flows on 100% lending. Sorry, Mark.
I say one of my clients got 2.8% today with KiwiBank. There you go.
It's just, I mean, and they reckon we could drop to 0 OCR. It's amazing. So, and yeah, I've never seen such a ludicrously lucrative time to invest. So yeah, so Mark's going to take you through a bit more detail on this in a minute. So this is just a summary. So same developer, but that is a render. However, that project has people living in it now. It's on Barbados Street. It's called Latimer Central, and there were just over 40 units in this complex, and it's finished, and there are now only 5 left for sale. So the reason this is attractive is 3 reasons. One, it's finished, so you can get tenants now, lock in interest rates now. But secondly, it's because it's medium rise, the developer has used steel and concrete. So you've got concrete between the floors, you've got steel frame. This building ain't going anywhere in an earthquake. And it completed at the beginning of this year. We've been involved in this complex. There's only 5 left, including one of the penthouses. And in Auckland, if you say the word penthouse, you're over $1 million. In Wellington, you're nearly at $1 million, if not more. A penthouse in this complex for a big 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom penthouse is 695 grand with west and north facing decks. I mean, that just sounds crazy when you say that, but you know, that's the reality of Christchurch. Architecturally, it's a very good looking building. You know, they've integrated brick, steel, concrete and glass, and that really cool Zincalume cladding that's used in Central Otago and other cool places. And again, location, this is 500 metres from where the new stadium's being built. It's 200 metres from Latimer Square. To walk into the CBD from here would take about 6 minutes, maybe 5, depending how fast you walk. So, I mean,
there is 400 to 4. You know, you telling me the penthouses are, telling the listers penthouses still get a positive cash flow.
That's crazy, isn't it? I mean, you know, obviously it's going to be lower cash flow because it's another couple of $100 grand over the other ones, but yeah, under 100%. And 100% finance on today's interest rates, the penthouse on because it's one of the better penthouses. There's only 4 up on their floor. You know, the rental assessments we've had, it's you know, per annum break even $400 positive. So pretty crazy, really, when you think about it.
Absolutely.
So Mark's going to take us through the landing pages that you guys will get emailed after this webinar or overnight. But yeah, 500 to 700 grand, brand new, finished, ready to rent, people living in the building. We were there late last week, met a couple of the tenants, met it because it's also got owner occupiers in there. Love it, happy, secure. It's a gated complex, swipe card access. It's got a lift. I mean, it's got Queeler floors in the staircase. I mean, you just don't see that in the rental world normally. They've done it almost too good for renting, but because of the price point, this is your executive. It's a business class project, we'll call it. Right, and then the last one.
The Alexandra Park of Christchurch, like we're selling in Auckland, and I sold one on the weekend for 1.675 mil. So there you go.
How many metres?
2 bedroom, but it's 100 square metres.
I mean, that's amazing. I mean, off memory, and you'll be able to see this in a minute, but I think I should look it up. I don't like getting the numbers wrong, but I'm pretty sure these are 80 square metre 2 bedrooms. The penthouses, I think, are larger. But when you think about it like that, what do you say? 1 point how many? This is the most expensive.
1.675 mil. There we go. So that's the second one there, but.
And 695 is the most expensive in here. It's nearly half price for almost the same size. That's crazy. Anyway, that's Christchurch, which is Auckland. I mean, Auckland is, you know, I mean, it's a major international city with 2 million people living in it, but still, that's just crazy. So this is, and look, you know, you're not going to have 5 penthouses in your property portfolio. You might have one, and I'd rather have one at 695 than 1.4 mil. because I don't imagine there may be the amount of people that can rent that to make it cash flow positive. But let's go to what I deem as our most rare project, and it won't last project. So it's on Colombo Street. It's 1.5 kilometres from the CBD. It's just outside what's called the 4 Avenues, but you're still walking or biking distance to the city. It's in Sydenham, and as suburbs go, Mark, what's your Sydenham equivalent in Auckland? In Wellington, it's Mount Cook or Petone or Newtown. It's a funky, eclectic, cool suburb. It's got a really popular mall in it with a boutique picture theatre and cool eateries. But what's your Sydenham in Auckland, Mark?
Oh, I don't know. Point Chev, probably a wee bit better than even Point Chev to where I'm sitting here in Ponsonby.
I was just going to say, because it's probably closer than Point Chev, but I mean, it's eclectic, it's cool. They've even got their own suburb plan. You know, the residents have got a forward plan for the suburb. They really love living there. So this is a brand new complex.
Sorry to interrupt again, but there's much cooler stuff there than there are in Point Chev, just by the way. Hope there's no Point Chev people listening.
One of my best friends lives in Point Chev. I have to say, I love that beach in Point Chev. It's so cool. Anyway, there's a cool house that's been built with these huge concrete fins there, but that's probably 5 million. So these aren't 5 million; they're 300 to 475 grand. But basically, this is one of the best built complexes we've seen, and it's one of the best built complexes because it was being built by New Zealand's largest builder, being Fletcher's. And it's got a little bit of history. The site is the old Sydenham school site, and they've kept 100-year-old oak trees. It's designated high density, but it's not. And that photo, and Mark will take us through some photos in a minute, but they've got huge separation between the blocks, and they've got massive outdoor grass, green areas for the residents and owner-occupiers to use. And it's at this crazy price of $330 to $385 for 1 bedrooms, 50 squares with 1 or 2 outdoor living areas. That's the 1 bedrooms. And the 2 bedrooms are 80 square metres, $430 to $475, 2-story outdoor living, 2 outdoor livings, north and south or east and west, depending which block you're in. Now, we were selling these with yields of up to 6%, 6.4% for the cheapest ones. They went really quickly, so they've gone, but that was the yields that these were being rented for. And we'll look back on this complex, Mark, and go, man, that was so cheap. It's also mixed use. It's got commercial built into the complex on Colombo. So it's actually on Colombo Street. It's on 4 streets. So it's a massive block because it's an old school site. But there's only 70 units in there, or just under 70, and just 1s and 2s. And it's got about 25 residents now, and they love it. I've spoken to a few of them because I'm there so often. Price for bang for buck is just crazy. And I'm going to hand you over to Mark in a second for a bit of a site tour. But I'll just make some following comments about it that I've never seen in product for this price point. Outdoor living, both sides, front and back. Haven't seen that before. Stud height inside the 1s and the 2s, 2.7 metres. Standard in New Zealand is 2.55 or 2.56. This is 2.7. Doesn't sound like much, but when you walk into them, they feel much, much bigger than they are. Aircon heat pump, but also airflow systems within. Never seen that in a complex of this price point before. And low maintenance. You know, the body corporate fees in this, they actually had their first review recently and they dropped them because the complex doesn't cost as much to run as they initially thought. So, yeah, Mark, why don't you take the team to the landing page now to show a bit more detail on all three, whether you want to start on Colombo. Have you got that link? Or am I driving the bus? Oh, here we go. Oh,
There we go.
I think I need to click on it. Here we go. And then
I'll put it back to me anyway. Yeah, hold on. I'll just change presenter, do we? Back to me. Showing my screen. Okay, and if I, excuse me, we're just a bit of technical difficulties here. I think there we go. We have our, you should be able to see my screen, everyone, can they? Yep. All good.
You're still on you're still on PowerPoint though, Mark.
Oh, sorry, I'm too, sorry. That's what I'm after.
There you go, there you go, look at that. So this is live, team.
Hey, just one of the things that you said there about the on Colombo, the first few at the great yield have gone. Just thinking about it, being a very positive tonight. Probably with the low interest rates, how it's got lower even in the last 2 months or last month, you're probably getting the same actually cash flow than you were the ones that got the cheapest ones. So you're probably getting the slightly better ones at the same cash flow. There you go.
Well, you're actually right, because when we first got involved in this, interest rates were 3.6 or 3.7. So they've dropped a lot since then. You're right. You're 100% right. So, so Mark's the Property Ventures team is going to send an email out tonight or tomorrow morning that you'll be able to go through these pages. And we've got a couple of Hamilton deals up there and 3 Christchurch deals that we just talked about tonight. There's a lot of, Mark will take over, but there's a lot of information on this website, and it's only for Property Ventures clients. No, this is not a public website. It's a link that you will get emailed to you directly from Mark and his team.
Yeah, we're the only real estate company that that has this access to this thanks to these chaps. So that's all good. So we've got the 3 that Campbell just spoke about there. The one down the bottom here is the off the plan one, and we'll click on that one first. So this is what you'll get when I send this tomorrow. This is what you'll see. So this is the offer plan one here, 2 beds. Here's the purchase price, $550ish roughly, and it's going to pay you $16 positive cash flow whether you get out of bed or not a week, which is all good. Let's click on it and have a wee look. And Campbell can sort of jump in any time, but we see the main picture there. Obviously, when you click on this, it's got the overall details.
So it's 48 1 and 2s, Mark, with that rooftop garden. So rooftop gardens have become a pretty cool thing overseas. Wellington's got a couple now. Auckland's got a few. This, to my knowledge, will be the first one in Christchurch that I've seen. And well, I haven't heard of another one. So this is for residents only, and it's going to have a rooftop garden facing west, and south. I think it's southwest off memory, but don't quote me on that. But pretty cool feature in a funky apartment complex that's not that big, 40 odd units.
This is quite in line with what I see. I love going back to Christchurch now, and I go back every 2 to 4 months, and I've the place I can't help but keep saying that it's a funky town because all the buildings are sort of like this, and they're just different than you see in any other city. They're new, they're funky, they're clean, and they look pretty cool. So this one here is off the plan, unlike the other 2 we're going to show you tonight. So you need your 10% deposit, like any off the plan in New Zealand, to get going, and then the rest will be settled on completion later on next year. And at the moment, the LVR rate is 80%. You can borrow from the bank. I know now with the new LVR rates being relaxed a little, it does come down to you, the investor, your personal situation on LVR and on income and what have you that you've got in your portfolio. But that's why you see a broker to sort that out. So that's all good. If you want to keep going down, it's got all the suburbs.
Just stay there for a second, Mark. Can you just go back up? I just need to tell people that something. So I said earlier on, we got involved in this project last year, and the developer had some capital issues, and and it was sold. The project was sold, and the new developer is literally on site at the moment. We haven't launched this yet, and we literally, this is the first presentation we've done, and I call this a relaunch. Now, you'll see on that page there that there's some discounts, and I'm meeting with the developer. Hasn't been able to get to Christchurch because of COVID-19. I've had online discussions with them, and they are going to basically give us X number. We don't know what that number is, at the original prices with, you know, up to 7.5% discounts. So this is one to keep an eye on, because as they sell them down, because it's with a retail agent at full price, but you will get an offer from Property Ventures on this project at discounted prices, because once they start the groundworks, so there are already sales in here, but the developer has told us that they'll want some more sales, and they'll incentivize people because they need pre-sales to keep the bank happy. They've got foundation funding already, they've got sales already, but they do want some more. So we'll know that actual quantum. So this page was off the initial launch, same product, same design, same apartments, just a different developer. So keep an eye on your inbox, because the first wave of promotion will have that discount in it. So I just wanted to make that point, Mark.
Yeah, and then we're extremely fortunate to be in a situation where a more standard real estate company in Christchurch, and I've had it previous in the last 7 years, in fact, off and on, where they do sell at the valuation, and we're lucky enough to get that 7.5%, which puts us in a fortunate situation if you're a part of us and being able to buy from us. So thanks for that, Campbell.
Well, it is real. I mean, I have seen sale and purchase agreements that someone off the street has paid full price, and a Property Ventures client has had a discount because the developer knows that they've got bulk buyers, and that's how it works. So yeah, keep an eye on your inboxes on this one.
Yeah, so if you're interested in this, you can tell us straight away, and you can have a look there. So but I mean, going down, and I'll show you probably not so much in this one, but more in the other two. You've got an analysis here from what everything's based on, and down on the left here, you see I'll come back to that. You've got floor plans and valuations and body court fees. You've got the whole shebang. You click on here for property investors. It's what you all are. We've got the 2-bed forecast unfurnished. So you can click on this, for example, and come into it, and it'll give you the whole thing over here, like the property value, the assumptions for these figures. The property value is 545, purchase price is 504, and go on, so on, and it goes through what the annual rent is, what the expenses are, and then goes down to tell you, pre-tax cash flow is 819 a year, before you actually can get some clawback from the tax man on the chattels, furniture and chattels depreciation. That's about all the government let us get these days, but at least it's something, and that increases it there. So even this one here is still pre-tax just, so that's all good. But I won't go too much into that one. But you're going to get this tomorrow morning. You can have a look yourself. Spend the next day or so looking at this. But if you are interested in one of these, just let us know, and we'll tell you how to do that later on. That's all I'll cover on that one. Then we go into the one in Latimer Square, just up the right in the middle of town, as Campbell said a few minutes ago. We haven't had it.
Mark, do you just want to click on your top left green button to maximise your screen?
The reason I'm not doing that, but I'll do it.
Oh, right, sorry. So you want to keep it so you can see it. I just want to make sure, just press to people, those are renders, but this complex is finished, and it actually looks a lot better in real life than the renders, but the renders still look pretty good.
Yeah, so these are ones now you can it's not a 10% deposit down. Well, it will be, but you'll be setting it as soon as you want to settle it, sort of thing. So that's the difference between that and the normal off the plan. That means you can get in there, you're not waiting around, you can get the rent in there, and you go and buy another off the plan that isn't finished yet. So
that's right.
Take advantage and buy two in Christchurch before the market jumps too much. So again, as I said before, 38 of them. It's not a massive one. A funky place. You look at those photos, the renders, and what I like about renders, they all look pretty and stuff, but they're usually completion is much better than the renders ever look. Down here, it's got the suburb performance. So even in the last 20 years, up at 4.2% per annum, and that's after it hasn't gone up a lot in the last 9 years. So there's plenty more to come in the very near future there. Go down there, stats and what have you. You can look at later on. And there's only for this one here, this one so close to town, there's only 5 available. So that's something worth considering if there's only 5 available. This place so close to the city centre. I'm quite sure this is the one my accountant brother-in-law from New Plymouth has brought into, and he's very, very happy, and he's already taken it over, and he's actually, I think he's Airbnb in it, or he was going to. So that's a very cool place there. Again, you can go through, there's a couple more renders of it. In fact, does it have a, here's Latimer Square, or Latimer there, that's Latimer Square there, isn't it?
That's
it. Pretty good.
And that's the stadium back right. The big thing to the just below the Latimer is where the stadium's going.
Oh,
that there.
Right. Oh, okay.
That's the covered stadium.
Yeah, pretty cool. And that's going to be so cool when that gets done, and it's so close to the, it's a 4-minute walk to the middle of town. That stadium will be. It's fantastic. So very, very cool. Right there. And again, we've got everything from floor plans to rental appraisals, and let's wait for that to come up.
We reckon there's about 10 hours of reading on each one of these projects. And we can get people updated photos, because now that it's finished, we've actually got some videos through walkthroughs. That's the top floor, your 4 penthouses. So it is, just hold it there. 503 is the penthouse that is available.
Okay, there I'm looking
there where your mouse is over.
Yeah, two bedrooms, got a ensuite in there, and another bathroom for the visitors in the second bedroom. Deck there. Pretty cool.
Actually, and around the front. So that deck wraps right round to the front of it, north facing. Right.
Yeah. So so pretty cool, and you can, I'm sure, have a great fun doing this tomorrow instead of work.
I think it's 501. Sorry, I was looking north the wrong way. Yes, 501. Just scroll down, because I was at the wrong corner. Sorry about that. I thought north was pointing the wrong way, but it's the northwestern unit. They saved the best for last. He held it right back until the end. So if it is, it's the last page. Sorry, Mark, mate, you go over it again. Because I just.
Let's go back there first.
There you go. Yeah. So it's 501. See how the deck is that big space to your bottom there.
Yeah.
I gotta make sure I don't do this again. Where's north? Because
north that way, yeah.
Yeah, so it is 501. So you can see it there, but the balcony wraps around in front of the 2-bedroom units, the 2 bedrooms.
Yeah,
so,
well,
pretty cool unit.
502 is pretty cool too. It's just it's a one bedroom, is it?
No, that's a 2-bedroom. That's sold. So all the other penthouses have sold. It's just that 501 that's left.
Right. Okay, so that's good, and you can obviously see down there a bit closer to actually what the room plans look like. But I'll let you all do that tomorrow. So that's fantastic. And the other one, which we spoke about, probably one of the best deals you'll get at the moment for the price side of it, as we just spoke about, the biggest developer in New Zealand, Chewham Street, with the best cash flow that we're talking about tonight. So the best to last, as you just said. Apart from the ugly mutt in that photo there, he does a video. It's quite a good site this, and goes through, and like a couple other builds I've seen in Christchurch, it has quite a bit a green area. Just these photos don't actually show it. It does down the bottom, I think. They have quite a big green areas between like over here. Here we go, between the apartments and what have you. So it's quite a cool place. You can hang out there in the summer and meet your mates, and might live somewhere else and have a quiet hour or whatever you might want to do. And again, there's actually only 9 available in this one already. The good thing I love about this, apart from the good cash flow, is what's around it. There's do you want to explain just across the road the sort of complex that's there with like movie theatres, and again these are new funky buildings, and there's a supermarket, and there's another wee shopping sort of centre there, isn't there? Tell us about that. Campbell?
So you've got the Colombo, which is an iconic historical, like Christchurch is famous for Valentine's in the square in the CBD, but the Colombo is a very historically sought after mall that people just go to. It's always been quirky and boutiquey. It's got a really cool food court. It's got some unique retailers for shopping, and it's got a cool little cinema out the back. So that's actually across the road from this complex. There's a bus stop at the entrance to the complex. It's on 4 streets. But Sydenham is neat. It's got some neat bars and cafes. The Fermentus, which is a new one, is about 20 metres north of the front of the door. It's a real community in the middle of a funky suburb, and the people that are living there, owner-occupiers and tenants alike, have given us really good feedback. There's about 500 square metres of commercial space still to be let, and that's basically on the doorstep of the complex on Colombo Street. And photos never do them justice, but when you stand in the complex, the separation between those buildings, the big areas of greenery and the trees and all the buxus and, well, not buxus, grisellina hedging and other plants they've used, they've done an amazing job. And cash flow positive from day one, fully rented at 100% finance. You know, if you put only borrowing 80%, it's significantly cash flow positive. I've yet to see a bang for buck like this, and I don't think you'll see it again. You know, the Fletchers, which is partly government owned, bought the land off the government, being a school. So, I mean, I don't know what that transaction looked like, except to say it must have been a good deal for Fletchers, because to be selling them at these levels, these are, you know, the 80 square of building and 50 square of building, plus a lot of outdoor and car parks, and a high fit out. With, you know, when you're going 2.7 metre stud height, there's a lot more material in the build, lots of jib, a lot more wood, a lot more linings and everything. So, yeah, in my opinion, these will jump up quite significantly pretty quickly once, you know, Christchurch really gets on a roll. And it's the resales that set it. That's right. Also good appliances. I forgot to add, Mark. Man, I'm not really. I'm not thinking tonight. We've also negotiated exclusive for basically for database clients like yourselves. We've negotiated, all of these appliances come with it, but we've also, this is your whiteware in terms of kitchen and hob and things, but we've negotiated a $3,500 cash back, which one of the property managers have managed to cover window coverings, fridge, freezer, washer, dryer. So you get that on, because you don't want tenants moving that stuff in and out. So there's a cashback worth $3.5K on top of what, you know, that's included in what you're paying. That's exclusive to us. It's also got an extremely good body corporate insurance policy that covers loss of rents. It covers chattels. It covers malicious damage. It's a very good insurance policy that's built into the body corporate fees. So it's as good as you get. And we actually think, we'll look back on this one day and go, say, well, I wish we could have another 350 Colombo. Your young guy loved it when he came through it, Mark. Andrew did.
Yep, Andy, yep. Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, Jolly,
we've also got drone footage of the complex online. You can see, I don't know if there's a link there to it. It's one of the videos. Maybe it's built into the one of me on the couch, but there's actually a lot of information you can watch and see and read on this. And everyone that we've had jump on a plane to come and look at it have been overwhelmed, not underwhelmed, they've been overwhelmed.
Like the price is low. You can get into it straight away, and as you said to the other buyers that have got brought in there, they've almost virtually got a list of people ready to move in. So by the time you buy it and settle it, you've talked to your property manager before you buy it. They should have someone in there if not on settlement date, pretty close to it. And at that price range, that's a pretty cool thing, especially so where it is in contrast to town, and what's around it is quite cool.
Hey Mark, if you click on play and then just fast forward it a little bit and full screen it, you'll get the drone now bottom right it, and then I'm probably going to break your blooming thing, but and then just scroll that bad boy forward there, because I do a sort of tour of the complex, but we've done a lot of photos, and right at the beginning there's some drone footage from above. There you go.
I'll just talk about it.
So that was when it was being built. It's fully completed now, but you can see the separation between the units and how much space there is. No, listen, he's boring. But people can do that, and I just wanted them to see the video because there's some good shots of how big it is. That's Colombo Street there that you're looking at. There's those trees. So yeah, I just wanted to let people see it. So yeah, that's the 3 projects. That was a real quick overview. Spend some time at home and you know, go through it and have a look. But yeah, price point wise, yield wise, hard to really compare to anything else in New Zealand for new product. Mark.
Oops. Sorry, I'll just catch up soon. Carry on.
This is why you didn't want to full screen it. Why don't you throw it back to me and screen share me? Give me the screen, Mark.
There we go. There. Hold on, just make sure. Yes, maybe I will. That just doesn't work. Which is, where's my PowerPoint going?
I'm on that last page now. If you want to switch.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do that, and I can still. You can show me, and I can talk about it. Well, it's not bad. We haven't had too many, issues so far. No complaints.
No. So you should have my screen on now, and I can just tell me when you want me to move the page forward, Mark.
Yeah. So just move ahead to the next page now, then, Campbell. So just want to go through, what we can do for you. We've had our hour. So what we can do to help you buy if you are from out of town. We can organise whatever you want, however you want to get through the property. We've got a couple of property managers who have given appraisals and help you through your due diligence. Just click through the next couple if you can. So we can do whatever you want for that. I mean, some of the drones are already on as we just showed you there.
And we can update that. We can update that, Mark, and get it through, because that was done when it was construction. So I haven't done it for a while. We'll get our guy out.
Yeah, and what I like about this, all you have to do with people get a bit hung up about, I need to figure it all out before I buy my off the plan. Or in these cases, 2 of these cases is just buy the property. You don't have to. You want to secure it. I had someone today, they missed out because they didn't want to secure it. And what I mean by securing it is you put a sale and purchase agreement down. You get 2 weeks to decide if you want it. There's no commitment and there's no money paid for those 2 weeks. So what it means is you can get it off the market before someone else buys it, and that's a great advantage for you. And you've got 2 weeks then to decide if you want it. At that point, then you pay your 10%, then you commit to it, and then you go ahead, buy the property, get the cash flow, make the capital gain, and make a lot of money, and buy another one hopefully next week or next year. One thing, pre-approvals are taking a long time, so you get it in, and I've got one of the things we're saying to people at the moment, one of our taglines: if you're not pre-approved, you're not in the game. And I'm not being rude there. I'm just saying.
That's true. You're right.
Get approved. One of our good friends is a very good mortgage broker. He just deals with property investors, and he's saying now, if you're self-employed, for example, or if you're not a self-employed after COVID, they're saying go there and get your tax return done immediately, because they even want to see up to the last month of where you are. So they want to see, if you're self-employed. It's not so bad if you're not self-employed. But get your pre-approval if you're not already, if you're even considering buying, and but get it under contract. You still get 10 days. You can still get finance within 10 days. So we're having good success now. It was a bit tough 4 weeks ago and 3 weeks ago. It's still tough, but it's still people got 4 and 5 days. I even had a first time buyer that it took 5 days to get their finance, and I thought that's pretty cool. Went through a broker. So yeah, so we've got on that there. You want to click through there, Campbell? And I know most people know who we are and what have you as Property Ventures, but you know, what do? We off the plan and new builds New Zealand wide. We're off the plans. You know, that's like the first one we spoke about. That's not ready yet. That is really most of our stock. It's really nice to have a couple properties, especially Colombo, that's finished now and new and still a great deal. So that's really good. And from 330k to a 3-bedroom in Alexandra Park and anywhere in between, especially mainly in Christchurch and Auckland, some in Hamilton as well. But basically, if you're looking for a new build, we can find you a new build for what you want. Come to us and you can access our new build consultants. We can provide you, as I said before, all the specialists. That's if you haven't got your solicitor, if you haven't got a property manager or broker, if you want one, we can recommend some to you. We deal with them every day of the week. Existing property, as I said, if a new build's not you, existing property New Zealand wide, we're from Whangarei to Dunedin. And of course, we've got the famous, the first ever New Zealand property podcast video series that no one can take off being the first. I like that. And if you just go to the last page to finish up, and you can start putting any questions if anyone's got any questions in the questions box right now. Yeah, what to from here? So you listen to us tonight. You've got some really good knowledge and education about what's going on in Christchurch from Campbell. Email us at info@Property Ventures. As I said, we'll send you that link that we showed before tomorrow morning. We will send this video out again on our weekly newsletter at the end of the week. As I said, you can access to our consultants. We're New Zealand wide. We will do another one of these for Auckland in a couple of weeks' time. We just get unusual deals, and just for example, this is what Property Ventures do, and one of the things I love that we can do for our customers, and I hate trying to oversell ourselves, but you know, today was a great example. We got a call from a developer today that said, Mark, we need to sell one property by the end of the week, and it's an $800,000 property, and they said we'll do it for $730, because what that means, that's 70k under, and what that means is they can then get paid probably $2 million next month, and so they're prepared to give 50, 70k away in a deal, and that's the stuff we get at Property Ventures all the time. That's what I buy. I buy deals like that, and I'm only buying the same stuff that I talk to with our clients. So that's sort of one of the things I love. That link's down the bottom of the page there with the wholesaleproperty.co.nz, Property Ventures, and that's what you'll get tomorrow morning. Well, Campbell can sort of wrap up. He's got to say, just any questions you have about anything, about Christchurch or about us or any of the properties, feel free to ask any questions. We're obviously done a bloody good job, Campbell, because there's no questions at the moment. Yeah, what do you want to say in closing from your side of things?
Oh, look, you're a specialist company, and don't underestimate that. People listening, there's a lot involved with off the plan. There's a lot to know. Having experts hold your hand is really key. You know, the due diligence that we've done on those deals is literally everything you need to know. And, you know, spend the time looking at it, reading, understanding and watching it, because, you know, not all projects are created equal, and we spend a lot of time and money hunting out these sorts of deals, because from a long-term point of view, these are the sorts of properties that actually last a distance. So, I'm ready for questions if anyone has any questions. Just on
that, what you're saying here, it's a specialist thing. It's interesting. We've got one lady that's worked for one of the major other bigger companies around New Zealand in Auckland here, and this is all foreign. She's worked for quite several years, a good 10 or so years in real estate, and it's all foreign to her. This new build thing. We're showing her and teaching her. Also, another chap we know who's considering coming working for us. He works for one of the biggest 2 companies in Auckland, and he works in such a sharp team, one of the sharpest teams in that company. And talking to him, and he's just started learning and stuff about these they do new builds, but they he's never from the investment side that I treated as our bread and butter stuff, and people want to know and what we do. And he's just getting really excited about that's what he's just learned. And he's met us, and he's gobsmacked from what we're doing. So I'm not saying we're any better than anyone or not. So some of our processes aren't as good as some of the others, but what we do, and Campbell and us both do the same thing, is we just in a different market. It's a property investor new build off the plan market, and we can get deals. We get the extra thing. We get that 3.5. It's a total turnkey property. You provide it. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to put the curtains up. The curtains are a pain in the ass. Tell the truth of it. All the new build you buy, you never get that final little thing done. And to have things like that offered to you and put up and done, that's what makes it different from the other standard type companies I think that we deal with. So
it's so true, Mark. I mean, you work on the basis that it's an Auckland buyer and they don't want the hassle. They want on settlement day property manager showing tenants through, if not before settlement, which does happen, so that everything's been thought of. And just even the property manager recommendations is worth a lot, because the right ones will have tenants lined up, the wrong ones will reactive and slow, and you could lose 4 weeks of rent. So all that's the heavy lifting that gets done by the expert team.
Yeah, no, jolly good. Well, we might wrap it up then tonight, so I expect that stuff tomorrow morning. And hey, thanks all for listening. We'll get more and more polished as we go on, and it won't be the last time we have Campbell on here and his team. And have a superb evening and enjoy the week, and enjoy having maybe a social drink with more than 10 people in the weekend. And wrap it up. Thanks, Phil. Any questions, back to us straight away or in the morning on info at Property Ventures, and I'll come back to you personally, or Kieran will, or one of the new build team you saw biking down Queen Street early on in the photo. Good evening. Thanks very much.